Hello everybody, and welcome to a new One Punch Man the Strongest video. Today, after a request a while back, I have decided to do a SSR and LSSR tier list just to really show kind of how you should be using or investing your Star Ascension cards before you get a UR or an SSR plus character. Now, let's begin. So, with normal Sonic, I would say he is trash. Now, they give out SSR or LSSR Sonic for free after a week of the game, so you really don't need to use this Sonic ever. Maybe it's like a Shatterer, but even then it's kind of overkill or underkill really, and there are better Shatterers. Next up, I would say Deep Sea King. Now, personally, I'd put him at mid just because his core has the reflection damage, has reflect. However, it's not really that useful early on. Especially since you can get cores like Zombie Man or Bangpoo even if after like a week of the game, if you're going that route, or pulling a UR character like UR Child Emperor who's coming out in about a month. Now, next up is going to be Base Tatsumaki or SSR Tatsumaki. Now, she's good early on. If you can't get anything better, then I don't actually know why these. Okay, there we go. She's good early on. She gets, I mean, there's a lot of better characters out there, but overall pretty good. Next up, we have Puri Puri Prisoner, and honestly, why is he not an R character? He's kind of just garbage. Now, next up, we have Subterranean King. Now, I'd put him at mid, probably just below Subterranean, Deep Sea King, just because at least Deep Sea King has a core. Subterranean King, he is given out for free, at least on Southeast Asia and on CN, to my knowledge. However, he isn't good past like the first few days max. He's good to start out with though, since he does actually do quite a lot of damage for a character that is not an SR. So I'm gonna put him at mid. Next up, we have Alloy. Now, I would say he's good early on. The reason for this is the damage reduction is going to be actually pretty nice. Then we got Tank Top Master, and I'd also call him good early on. His damage isn't particularly high. He does a little bit of HP based damage. However, he does give you tenacity, which does help early on if you really need that little bit extra durability. Realistically, he won't be in your team for very long outside of just, needing an SSR for a grappler. But yeah. So moving on, we got Carnage Kabuto. He's a good support. I'd say this because he actually has like some pretty strong reflection damage. He does HP based damage with his move 1, and he heals with his move 2, so he's a great tank early on. Next up, we got Child Emperor. Now, I'd put him at good support, probably above Carnage Kabuto, due to his Berserk. And that if you have his Keepsake, it's the highest shatter in the game, which is pretty nice if you don't have a good Shatterer. So he is actually a very nice support to have, especially if you're trying to get some extra damage on bosses. Next up, we have Melzerguard. Now, I'd put him a little higher than Carnage Kabuto in good support. He does lower the damage you take, so if you get him early on, he does help a little bit. He does heal himself and allies with his ultimate move. Now, next up, we have Boros. Now, he's good early game. Now, the reason I don't put him at worth building early on is because Sonic is just him, but does better. Next up, we have King. Now, he does do Energy Seal, and he also does have a good Shatter. So, I'd probably put him above Tatsumaki. He does have a really nice explosion of extra damage build, which is super nice if you need a decently good damager. Now, next up, we have Gary Ganju, and I put him at low mid because all he does is Energy Seal, and then he makes like a single character Berserk. Now, next up on the list is Vaccine Man. Now, he is definitely good support, especially if you don't have someone like Deep Sea King Plus or Groyboss Plus or even Chose. If you don't have those characters, Vaccine Man actually does better before Chose's 5-star, and thus will make your dot explode and deal way more damage. Now, next up, we have Groyboss. He's a good support, but I put him below Vaccine Man. He does increase damage of all allies based on how much corrode is on enemies. However, good luck getting him. He's rare as hell. Now next up we have Atomic Samurai. I'm gonna put him at mid. He kind of works early, and he was meta for like the first month of the game. He's not good. Now Metal Bat. He's decent early on if you don't have a better duelist. Also, now I would get Metal Knight. He's kind of mid. Like, his damage is kind of low. It's better than Atomic Samurai. I'd probably put him above Deep Sea King. Moving on to Bang. I'd put him in trash, honestly. He does block rate increase. Next up, we have SSR. We have a Phoenix Man. And I'd put him, honestly, at the top of good support. Actually, I'd put him in S. Now, this is a great replacement if you don't have Zombie Man. And he is actually really easy to get. So if you do not have Zombie Man, he's probably S, in my opinion. If you do have Zombie Man, he goes down to good support. He will work for basically what Zombie Man does in monster areas, say for tournament or Hero X Monster, if you need to do that. He will work and he will function, but he's not the best choice. Next up, we do have Zombie Man, which is kind of fitting. I would put him at S because he does injury, plus he revives 4 times and then 6 times at 5 stars, which makes him a great support for early or kind of later even, like say SSR plus Club Boss Boros if you're fighting him, or for even just normal Boss Boros or any boss actually. He is needed just because of his tankiness and his ability to revive is insane, similar to Phoenix Man. Now, next up, we have Siryu. He's good. He's worth building early on. His charge damage is super nice, especially if you have like something like Bangpoo's core. Now, next up, we have Garo, and I'd put him at either really high good early game or worth building early on. His internal injury is pretty good. Now, next up, we have Flashy Flash, and honestly, I'd put him in trash because he doesn't really work for anything. You know what? I'll put him in high mid. Below Metal Knight. No, above Metal Knight. So, he's not good. He does piss poor damage, and he kinda works as a speedster, but not really. Now, next up we have Goketsu. He is a good early game to a higher good support. If you're using him for attack, then he will work just fine early on. If you're using him for HP, then he's a great support, a great tanker for anything you need to be doing super early on in the game. Now, moving on to Giryu, or Giro, and I'd put him at OP/core. Now, he's really good for early on PvP, and he also is a great secondary core if you only have, like, saying Bangpoo or some SSR plus core or UR core. He is great for that, purpose. Next up, we have Genos, and he is given for free. So he's good early game, I'd say. Don't put Star Ascension cards into him, but he is completely fine if you're trying to just get some damage early on. RMG is honestly S. Actually, no, OP. Now, their boss damage is kind of like Sonic's. I'd personally put it a little higher because of the follow-ups she does. Now, we have Watchdog Man. I'd put him at super good support. His damage is he's not for damage. He does sealing for energy, which is pretty nice if you're doing PvP, and he increases the health of someone behind him, so you could put him, say, in front of Genos, and he'll do a bit more damage, and he won't lose as much HP when he ults. So, pretty nice, not insanely needed, but it definitely is a very good pull. Now we have LSSR Tatsu, or Awakened Tatsumaki, or ATT. I'd put her at OP/core. Her damage is super high, especially in combination with Chose or Vaccine Man. Next up, we have G4, who I'd say is a good early game, like a higher good early game. Now, he has Shatter, and that's kind of it. He does a bit of charge damage occasionally, but not enough to actually warrant anything. Then we have SSRMI, which I'd say is good support. He gives tenacity to the whole team. He heals the whole team, and he speeds up the row, which is pretty good for speed order early on if you really need that. He's great for keeping your characters tanky so that they don't die super early. And yeah, so I'd say he's a pretty good support early on. Probably below Phoenix Man, but still very nice. Next up, we have Drive Knight. Now, I never really experienced him until I got him as an SSR+. However, after seeing him a bit in Southeast Asia, or CN, I would say he's probably worth building early on, as his charge damage is super high, especially if you combo him with ATT or Hellish Blizzard. Now, Bangpoo, obviously, top of core. He is the best LSSR core. You can get him on Southeast Asia or CN pretty easily. It's the only time I'd recommend you buy red tickets. Next up, we have Chose, and I'll put him in the same rank as Vaccine Man. He has a higher 5-star than Vaccine Man, but that's kind of it. So he's really no better than Vaccine Man. Next up, we have Sonic, or LSSR Sonic, and I put him just above Tatsumaki. Actually, I'll put RMG above her too. So his boss damage is insane. His single target is extremely high, especially if you get his keepsake. He speeds up the row at 5-star, and at 5p he speeds it up even faster. He does charge damage. He heals himself. He gives the same row tenacity. Super great for Bangpoo core. Goes straight through Bangpoo core sometimes, and is just overall an amazing character. And you get him for free after 7 days. And especially because you can build him until you get your first UR or SSR+. Next up, we have AVM is his name. Awakened Vaccine Man. He's good early on. I don't think he's that good to start out with. Like, he's definitely going to be a good character. He's definitely a good character. Actually, I'd probably put him in good support. I put him above Chose. I put him there because he detonates the DOT he detonates field, which Chose does, which ATT does, which Drive Knight does. Who else does field? Oh yeah, which Hellish Blizzard does. The SSR version, of course. Super strong character overall. Nice explosion damage. Gives himself unyielding, which is pretty nice. I don't remember how many times he does that, but I think it's like 2 or 3 times. And that is pretty insane for someone who is not based only around unyielding, like Zombie Man or Phoenix Man. Now, actually, I'd probably move up Zombie Man. I'm going to actually remove this tier. Alright. Now, Gale Wind. He's a great support. He does stun, which is pretty nice if you're doing PvP or PvE. He does a constant follow-up for more internal injury, which is super nice. Next up, we have Hellfire. And I'd honestly put him at mid. He buffs Bangpoo's core, but do you really need that? It doesn't really help you a whole lot, and it more just takes up a slot that you could use for, say, Sonic. Or, I don't know, anybody else. Next up, we have Hellish Blizzard, their SSR version. And I'd say they're worth building early on. They do great AoE damage. They're like ATT. She detonates her own field and all other field when she ults. Next up, we have Pig God, and I'll put him at mid because kind of doesn't do much. Actually, I'll put him at good support. Now, the reason is, for a really late stage, you need him to swallow Moomin Rider. Next up, we have Eyesight. Good. I'll put her at tops of good support. Now, what she does is she stuns, she gives Berserk to allies, she increases all Esper allies, and lowers the enemy hero damage. Anyway, because all enjoyed today's One Punch Man the Strongest video, I'll see you guys later, and have a wonderful day. Also, make sure to subscribe and join my Discord server. Bye!